Hello, this presentation is all about LLN Footprint. So that is for online learning. So in short, it is online LLN Footprint. LLN stands for Language, Literacy and Numeracy. So we are going to look at why it is important to us, especially when we deliver a number of training packages for students who are studying from certificates to the degrees via diploma and advanced diploma programs in a number of different areas, starting from business to marketing to design and technology, and then travel and tourism. The most important element is we are in the digital world. Online learner has just simply shifted the paradigm from face-to-face to a digital platform. And the other issue is the technology keeps on changing. But the most important is how to create that footprint among the learners. And that's why we are going to look at this one. So let me share my screen. Give me a minute, please. Right, I hope you should be able to see my screen clearly now. So I have been thinking of this topic for more than a year now. From last October, it came to my mind. All information is available. What is that we are doing exactly? What is the starting point? How do these processes connected together? And if somebody asks, can I see what am I doing exactly? I have training packages. I have all course information on a learning management system. Marking is also doing there, and meeting students using different methods, but there is no sequence of events. So then I thought there must be something, there must be a reason for that. So this is why I thought in the end to come up with this presentation. So the elements I'm going to consider here is a definition to start with, then the boundaries and how to diagnose, and the key that I have used, then the number of models that I have created, and to distinguish specific needs, I have two different areas. That is the general LLN skills and the critical ones. Then the learning, facilitating or teaching process, which I'm using a flow diagram. Then another model I have created, and I find it's very effective model, the way how I find. Then the treatment plan and execution, so it's more of a strategy. So then the summary, and finally the questions. So to start with this, the first thing is to look at a definition. So in the case of definition, footprint can be defined as a mark or an impression left by a foot or shoe on the ground or a surface. Now, I have used different colors for different words or phrases for the purpose of substitution. So, definition is, this definition is applying for online learning. So, the footprint is going to be substituted by LLN footprint. Then the mark and impression is the LLN mark for the LLN impression, that is language, literacy and numeracy. The left by foot or shoe is going to be replaced by the lecturer, the facilitator, or the organization. And now the target is in green on the ground or a surface. Here the target is student online learning, but it is more for online learning. Going back to this title, it has become lifelong learning. From there, what we are going to do is we are going to start with a video. So that will give you a better idea of where we are heading.
What works? Language literacy and numeracy training and assessment. Why is language literacy and numeracy so important? We all use language literacy and numeracy skills, or LLN, in our day-to-day activities. What do we understand by this term, language literacy and numeracy? Language is the main way humans make and understand meaning. When we speak, listen, read, and write. We expect people to understand the way language is used in different circumstances and for different purposes, at work or in the general community. Literacy is more than the technical skills of reading and writing. It's the ability to read, to use written information, and to write appropriately. At work, at home, and in the community. We use our literacy skills to achieve particular purposes: to explain, debate, retrieve and provide information, entertain, and create. Numeracy is the ability to use the mathematical concepts we need to function effectively in work and social contexts. We need these skills so we can participate fully in our workplaces and our community. Yet about half of working Australians experience difficulty with some of the literacy and numeracy tasks they have to tackle in their work and personal lives. They may have difficulty following written instructions, using email, or interpreting graphs and charts. They may make mistakes when they are calculating change, recording measurements, or checking calculations against estimates. A move away from low-skilled work to knowledge-based work has increased the need for workers with good LLN skills. The LLN demands placed on workers are also becoming more complex. Rapid changes in technology require the ongoing upskilling of the workforce. So LLN skills are increasingly important in people's jobs, and therefore in the training we deliver. If trainers are able to identify and develop the workplace LLN skills their learners need, there will be benefits for all parties in the vocational training business. For learners, training that gives them the LLN skills they need will not only help them participate more in their training, but will also give them greater personal success, satisfaction, and future opportunities. For employees, there will be improvements in workplace safety, work satisfaction, employment opportunities, and vocational outcomes. For employers, a more highly skilled workforce will mean increased efficiency, quality, productivity, safety, and innovation. For trainers, being aware of LLN will make their training more effective and more rewarding, with higher completion rates. LLN skills underpin all other skills and are integrated into all work tasks and vocational training. Building the LLN skills of the adult population can benefit the Australian economy and society in general by creating more fulfilling work and employment opportunities for individuals and greater competitiveness for Australia in world markets. It will also raise the capacity of all Australians to fulfil their potential as learners, workers, and citizens.
So that video explained clearly what is required. So we are going back to the elements now, one by one. So language, it says listening, speaking, reading, writing. But in this situation, we'll be looking at text-based information, that is listening and understanding, but by reading. You can listen and text information text information is about what was written on a web surface or a word or a document. Then the other information comes from listening and understanding, that is voice-based information. Then the videos have the more processes involved, or a number of events, or the presenter. some kind of a video contact, looking at an image, and somebody is instructing. The graphical information comes from a number of diagrams or graphs that we use. So therefore, on all those areas, language is present. Now we are going to look at little more. We need to establish this rather than having loosely connected words. I'm going to take you to Bloom's taxonomy because I know these are there. So if you look at Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 layers. Of the 6 layers, the first 2 layers, the one in the bottom, are the remembering and understand, which says when someone reads, should be able to grasp the material and understand that. So that is, we are looking at in first 2 levels of the 6-level architecture. This is a worldwide accepted norm extracted from expertbeacon.com and the sources acknowledged. So we are going back to the next part of this LLN footprint, that is the literacy. So the video clip clearly says it's not just reading, it's more about the application of that. So which clearly emphasize the application of language is the interpretation in a number of areas. So by referring to that video clip, the areas highlighted were its explanation, then it says some manipulation or application, and a number of other areas is including creation. So I'm going to take you to this Bloom's taxonomy once again to find out what the video clip says is about literacy. It's more than just technical writing. So it's technical aspects. So that means it has some other levels. Let's look at the Bloom's taxonomy, the remaining level. We have applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And here that is level 3 to 6. So now it is crystal clear that the literacy is touching Bloom's taxonomy's level 3 to 6. So just as a note, generally it is accepted that the top 3 levels of Bloom's taxonomy is called higher order thinking skills, which I put a H. Then the bottom 3 is called the lower order thinking skills. So we will be comparing with this level throughout this presentation because some of the tools used here are directly connected to Bloom's taxonomy. So let's go back to where we were. Now the last item is numeracy. This was very clearly explained in the video clip, the requirement of numeracy in the workplace. So some of the examples, common examples are cost-benefit analysis, accounting and finance relating subjects, applied computing, even IT, management, administration, across the board, coming from learning to the house budget. You need to have the cost-benefit analysis. So it's such important element. Now, to identify the various elements and put the puzzle together, I'm using a key here. R, I'll be using R for reading, W for writing. There are 3 number of L words, so therefore I'll be using L1 for the basic language. L2 and S is listening and speaking. And then the next word is LI, that is literacy. I have 2 areas. If you could remember, I was referring to Bloom's taxonomy. So the bottom 2 layers I call LI 1 and 2. That's remembering and understanding. So the other LI, the other key is LI 3 to 6, which is literacy, which has applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating tasks. So finally, the numeracy. Now, to tell you the story, I came up with 2 tables. One is how to diagnose the general LLN skills, and the other one is how to diagnose the critical LLN skills. So now to do that, what we are doing is I'm going to get into the table. The table will give you a broader picture on what is this general LLN skills. And I'm sure you should be able to see my screen here. So in fact, this was set in last March, but updated October. So what I'm doing is, in my table, I have considered the area, that is which specific area, and then the general skills are grouped into the activities I perform. Then I have a column to say whether a student has this skill, yes or no. If it is no, then there must be a method of bridging the gap. So I have another column to say steps taken to bridge the gap. So, and also I need to look at, I have some connection to these other resources. I'll come back. So let's start with the first example, the very first stage. When we start a group of students, we start from the welcome email or the welcome video, which is considered as the first point of contact. So in that welcome email, in my welcome email especially, I have structured the element, what they are expected to do. So that's quite detailed document which goes for 5 pages. So my video clip is talking not the same. I'm not reading what I wrote in the welcome email. I'm telling more than that how to organize themselves towards online study. So those two are based on that. My presentation, in my case, I'm grouping them into the first group. To follow my instructions in the welcome email and the welcome video, students should have the listening skills important, reading important, then LI 1 and 2, the literacy for school level, remembering and understanding. But if I find a student is not capable, by looking at the response, I know that the student did not have the ability to follow those instructions. So to bridge the gap, I will be using either phone or another virtual class or Skype or Zoom. These tools are used to bridge the gap. That's an example. So similarly, students should be able to understand the study material on our learning management system. That's a general skill. Basic comprehension, something to read and completing the activities given for them. Those are the very basic skills required. Then can the student contribute to forum threads as indicated in the welcome email? Then can the student participate in chat rooms? Can a student write an email with a clear subject line? Then can a student use quick mail on our learning management system? Would the student require repetitive instructions even after giving one-on-one session? Can a student set a normal PowerPoint, getting a couple of slides and writing some information to make sense and add some bit of animation? And can the student upload assessments to learning management system? Right? And importantly, the different training packages. We are talking of a number of project management, change management, networking, then travel and tourism related, then accounting, then finance related. So a range of subjects. Would they understand the content in workbook or the first few sessions, and can they express? So that's important. Also the diagrams. Can they express the diagrams? And can they do the simple calculations? Can they participate in virtual classes? These are considered general skills. So as I said, every step, if a student cannot find this task, there are symptoms. There's a way of identifying. I'll come back to that slide later. So that's my table 1. So just keep a note. I'm referring this table to one special resource which we call ACSF, Australian Core Skills Framework, because these are directly connected, and I found it. Okay. So now this table 1 is done. So we are going back to our presentation, and the next one is I'm looking at diagnosing critical LLN needs. So that is the table 2. So let me get into the table 2 now. So to give you a better picture of what's happening. So in table 2, remember that general, sometimes there is a connection between the general and the critical. So this is, gradually we need to make that connection. So the critical skills are important to complete all the tasks. Tasks meaning the assessments. What is there in the assessment? That means by the time they should be processing information in the head for all the subjects that they are studying, and then they should be able to follow the instructions in assessments and come up with a solution. Assessments are there. That the purpose of assessment is to measure problem-solving skills. So one of the main critical skill is report writing. These instructions are given to students, and also here in this table. But below that, the resources to be used. The other issue is, can the students identify the weaknesses in their reading? This is very important here. The reason is, I have been using this reading document. This is Stella Cotterell's book about it's a study, how to study. In that book, this particular chapter, especially, am I a smart reader? We don't need just reading. We need students to be able to read critically, and that is the key. So I know there is a method of diagnosing this, and then I send this document to students. This book is one of the greatest books I have seen, if you could see the author. And there is a latest release, 2013, which is emphasizing on e-learning context. So that would be great. So what it does is how to use photocopies, how to use interactively. These are the important points I noted here. And also mind mapping, to making connections between the material they read. So do they use some kind of memory recalling exercises, and do they read off the computer, and also do they express, do they write short notes? So this document has a number of tips. So what is expected is, would the students genuinely tick what they do and what they do not do, and the purpose is to looking at their weaknesses, to improve that, getting rid of weaknesses, so that the critical reading aspect can be strengthened. Right? So sometimes when you find students, I don't understand this meaning, you need to go back and see where the error is, whether the information was read, what was the reading method. There was something wrong. And therefore, without reading basic information, it is difficult to grasp what is the overall objectives of any given session. So that Stella Cotterell's book was very useful one, which I call a smart reading document. So from there, going back to here, I have done table 1 is still in the process, which wasn't completed because I took you to the reading. So this is a critical skill. Analyze this document and they identify gaps. Then acknowledge what the gaps were via forum. Forum is created for students to contribute for any of the topic they like. Then there's another critical skill is, there are instructions given on learning management system on how to use Mahara for electronic portfolios. So e-portfolio instructions, if the student cannot be followed, that has become a critical skill, because certain packages, it is asking students to publish all material as a e-portfolio on Mahara. So it is like publishing aspect, so that they should be able to prepare a nice booklet. So that's called electronic portfolio. So that's a critical skill. And one of the most other important critical skill is, we are in the information age. So everyone has access to millions and millions of pages published on internet. Not only millions, YouTube is a massive database having video clips for anything. So what they need is to acknowledge, because the idea of training packages is not reinventing the wheel, coming up with something new. It clearly stated in that video clip what Australian uh, workforce needs. So in this case, students are allowed to read and get information from any area, but need to say where they got it. That's acknowledging. So we are looking at the very first stage of acknowledging, that is, tell where you got that information, the author and the source, the date. That's all. Under list of references, give the details, nothing more. So they are not going to do any further analysis, evaluation, getting quotes, and then battling with what authors said and reflecting on that. Just telling where you got it, and that's enough. Just growing this honesty, integrity, because it's part of academic integrity. So we use APA referencing 6th edition, which is easily they can use Microsoft Word, which has APA 6th edition. So that's not a hard area, but that has become a critical skill. And I have had a lot of students who did not know how to refer. But the issue is, we have these instructions given in a student's study skills handout, but it's some odd reason it seems it's skipped. But also, I have one of my posts on students forum about the importance of APA referencing, and it has all the details. I remember my document about that was the good and the bad of Turnitin.com, along those lines. So that has become one of the critical skills. So the other critical skills are plotting graphs really based on numeracy, plotting graphs. So, graphs meaning to plot a graph, not that they cannot do a calculation on a manual calculator, because you will get the answer, but how would you convert these numbers for different fields into a visual element? So to do that, they have to use Microsoft Excel, and it is today's standards. So that is another critical skill looking at. And here this is how to video clips. We generally give how to video clips. We have a collection. And if they cannot follow that instruction, that's a critical skill. Then I ask my students after a virtual class or Zoom or Skype session, send an email telling what you understood with this whole session. So that's whether to measure whether they are listening accurately and would they be able to take notes correctly. So that's a critical skill. So complex text handling is, I address that under APA, that is American Psychological Association's referencing style. So here it is, rephrasing and paraphrasing. I have conducted, even yesterday, conducted a class. Take one sentence, put it in your head, write in your own words, but don't distort the meaning, right? So put some of your words, simplify and say, but before putting the full stop to the sentence, within brackets open, say the author, comma, date. If there is no author, n.a.1 enough for me. If there is no date, n.d.1. So then on the list of references, tell the web link and where you got it. That's all. Nothing more. So presentation, see, this presentation skills is a critical skill, meaning a proper presentation starting from the introduction slide, the contents, then the rest of the information. Don't put too much text on slides. As I said, rule of thumb, don't put more than 30, because this is not a report. If you want to say anything, write down in your note pages. And then add some animation into that, or set it, automate your presentation when you upload to learning management system, so that you don't need to present. Your speech is given in the note pages, or add a sound clip or a video clip. So these are all become critical skills. So that's enough for the table that we were talking. That's why the two tables are such important, because one has the general LLN needs and the second one is the critical. Now what I got was, we have done this thing. We got the general skills, we got the critical skills. Now fine. The next stage is, somehow they have to submit assessments, and then it has to be marked, it should be graded, and passing grade will be recorded on the learning management system. So now I'm in my head, I'm getting three main wheels here. So the purpose of these three main wheels is to move them. Now notice wheel number 2. So this is representing the three wheels in a clock. So the general one is the seconds, then the critical one is the minutes, and the third one is the hourly wheel. Now the issue is, if you look at that, this critical is, it is rotating anti-clockwise. The critical, crucial. If this doesn't rotate, none of them will rotate. It is fascinating. Now I found, right, critical learning skills are the driving force here. Well, when I took a step backward, I felt very true, because general skills some students may have, some students do not have. But if you do not address critical skills, there is no way that they are going to complete their assignment. So that means, even in this diagram, it does make sense, because it is rotating anti-clockwise direction, kind of controlling the whole movement, which is very interesting. So I will give you more details by referring to a flow diagram. Right, now the next one that we are going to do is, need to look at what Australian core skills framework that my students are functioning in, because that has become a very important document. Now, this Australian core skills framework that is under notes, this was obtained from Australian Council for Educational Research. It was a fantastic research done. The report was more than 200 pages. The link will be there in my notes page. So what that core skills framework will be discussed first, so that you get an idea what it is. So this means, to understand what level of my students are functioning, I have to use Australia's core skills framework, that performance variable grid. I have already had my table 1 and table 2. That's not good enough. I need to have some kind of a process diagram, flow diagram, telling how are these elements connecting together, right? So start with that. I'm going to get into ACSF grid, which is right. ACSF grid has 4 columns and 5 rows. So I'm labeling these columns as A, B, C, D from the left. Rows, there's nothing to number because it is already numbered. But why I'm using here is, I've got 20 squares. So you should be able to spot each and every student's place on this grid. And that's a challenge. It's not easy. These are students you don't see. So how would you make it a student living in either Perth from this end to Tasmania? You have no idea. You have to put it there somehow as soon as they start. And then you need to find out, when it comes to grade, hey, come again. How am I going to grade this work? So that's a tough one, right? So this is Australian core skills framework, but I need to show you how I adapted this to suit the story I'm going to tell. So this document clearly shows what I did with Australian core skills framework. The columns and the rows, because based on that, each rectangle has a labeling. The first one is 1A, 2A, 2B, 3A, and so on. So column B is labeled from B1, 1B to 5B. Column C is labeled from 1C to 5C. Column D is for 1D to 1E. So, and these, if you look at the red notes, I put it. This is first one, 1A. The ACSF says, work alongside an expert mentor. So in that case, for me, if a student is unable to follow the instructions in my welcome email, this is where I start. Then may work with an expert mentor where support is available if requested. Sometimes when students ask for help, that's where they are fitting in. So then work independently. Some students do not ask, but they will post the question to the forum. So then ability to follow. Again, you can see that I'm connecting to a flow diagram. Again, I'll come back here, right? So this is how I adapted. Also, I need to find out what areas I can, because this Australian core skills framework is looking at 4 areas: the support, the context, the text complexity, and the task complexity. So based on that, against the support, I have groups here on our grading system. We have 4 grades for most of the subjects. If a student is not meeting the expectations, we call it NYC, not yet competent. If a student competes, it goes to performance grading. You all know that. That is the competent, the first level, and then the higher level. The next higher level is performance with merit, and the top level is performance with distinction. Note that performance with distinction, I haven't touched the row 5 because if you read this thing, these are the specifications. Sometimes these qualitative descriptors, how people define, there are no direct boundaries. So therefore, it's a hard one, but I stopped here. I felt number 5 is very, very challenging. So therefore, having a little loose corner, thought this must be useful. But again, getting the whole picture, and when it comes to individual cases, you need to make a decision. So that's the Australian core skills framework that we were using. Now, the next one is, we did discuss these ones. Now, the last element of that slide is the flow diagram. To draw a flow diagram of what's happening from the beginning up to the end, I'm using the standard symbols here. So arrow is to show the direction, and then a circle is if the flow diagram goes to 2 pages to connect those 2 pieces. Then I'll be using a lot of decision boxes. The symbol is a diamond. To start or stop a process, a sausage is used. A rectangle is for a process, for the processes. Then I'm using parallel diagram to indicate the other data entering into the flow diagram. So therefore, I'm going to take you now to the flow diagram. So with the flow diagram, I start with here referring to table 1 and table 2. Remember, language literacy and numeracy analysis. So in my case, if you see that, I've got lots of diamonds here, right? And as it is going to the other page, I have a connector. And you could see some other data coming in, which is using a parallelogram. This parallelogram data is coming from those tables. It could be table 1, it could be table 1 and 2, I have indicated, right, to tell my story. So what happens is, I'm starting from a welcome email and welcome video. And then what happens is, those students, there are 2 decisions to be made. Can the student follow those instructions or no? Yes, no. If yes, going to number 2, decision box. The ones no, meaning they should be taken out, and then there is a process involved. They need to refer to student progress advisor or the technical support, or they need individual assistance. This is the smart reading, or what else there. These are a couple of examples. And then once it was addressed, they enter to the first decision. That's the mainstream, right? Number 1. So that's a little loop there. So then the next one is, can the students send responses to forum posts? It's important. They should be able to communicate via forum. Then the next one is, can they start reading information from learning management system, and can they do the activities? If they cannot, again, yes, no. So if those who cannot do that, then they need individual help, but need to identify what help they require. Whether referring to student progress advisor would be helpful. Or you can also look at Australian core skills framework and see which area the student is, where, what can I do. Now then it continues to the next page with a connector. So this is participation in virtual classes and recording what's happening there, keeping notes on what is discussed. If it cannot do that, then again it is taken out, and then catering. If they can, then they follow number 5, that is assessment. Can these students follow the assessments, instructions in assessments, and do the activities? If they cannot, there are again 2 decisions, yes, no. So it makes sense. So sometimes students, by skipping 1 and say directly, you will find it up to number 5 or number 6. Number 6 is very common. There's nothing happening there. All of a sudden, assessment is submitted on study smart. That's good, but we'll see whether that's the case. So then what happens is, after submitting assessment without going through any of the stages, we look at this assessment with the marking, the checklist, and the marking guide, the performance grading. When you mark that, you find a general essay is written, the elements in the checklist were not addressed. One of the best examples is the project management. Selecting the wedding project and writing a generalized essay. This person, $15,000 spending the period is 3, 6, or 9 months. And the writing the essay, who's supposed to address, and in the end, a wedding card is provided. But the checklist is asking a scope, SMART objectives, costs benefit analysis, work breakdown structure, time management, none of them are there. So in that case, you see that's the reading, the information given was not processed, not read, activities were not done. So it's a generalized essay. So, but if that kind of essays are good for English language, but when it comes to project management, it expects more than that. So at that stage, you need to get hold of the student going back to number of steps further. That's a long journey, going backward and backward up to number 1. And then from there, finding what was the cause. So you identify that. So that's very interesting. So then again, these are referred to different skills noted in table 1 and 2. Once everything goes well, the grade will be inserted. But if when you mark here, assessment when marked, and if first attempt, if the student cannot succeed, given a second attempt with 2 weeks, but at this stage, one-on-one instruction is given, or a detailed written instruction is given on what to be done within that 2 weeks. So then the difference is they get into the attempt 2, but in attempt 2, if a subject is awarding performance grading, a student cannot get merit or a distinction grade in the second attempt, but they can get completed. Now, that is for the 1 assessment, just 1 assessment. So assessment 2, 3, or 4, the subsequent assessments are looping into this flow diagram from this stage. Number 3, because it is assumed the instructions given in 1, given for first assessment, will have an impact on the subsequent assessments. So if all assessments are submitted, then only we will be inserting the final mark, final grade on learning management system. So we are done with the flow diagram. Now, after doing the flow diagram, we get into understand what we have done and what we saw, and there are certain things we haven't seen. So although we haven't seen them, this is why the whole puzzle is there. We know that, okay, we know that there is a point of contact. We also know that there is a general learning language and learning literacy and numeracy skills. And there are critical language literacy numeracy skills. And we saw there is a flow diagram to say what's happening from assignment 1 to the last, how it is going. Some of the areas we saw in the flow diagram, cycles within cycles, a lot of U-turns, right, to get into. Again, the time factor will be different for different students. It's all based on the ability to process information, plus there are other skills, the time management, then there can be some personal issues, so number of those. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to get this onion and cut into half to show that got beautiful, nice purple onion. This is a very strong onion, by the way, unlike that yellow or white onion. This is what purpose we got it. So to find out what are the layers. Now the first one, we did see the general LLN skills from the point of contact, which is in table 1 and also in Bloom's taxonomy level 1 and 2. So the next one is education theoretical underpinnings, and that's a broader area for you to look at, because the reason is here it is. The reason for this educational theoretical underpinnings is, so we have number of theorists, the behaviorists like Skinner, then the cognitive psychologists, and constructivists like Piaget, Brunner, and then social learning theories, the Banduras, that is very, very powerful theory. Then social constructivism, Vygotsky, who said the group learning, how the group learning enhances student overall understanding. Then experimental learning by Carl Rogers, then multiple intelligences by Howard Gardner, and then the structured learning. So all of these learning plus 21st century learning styles have become much more important to make the case. So that means educational theoretical underpinning says what has to be done with what kind of learners and what is the overall outcome. Then we need to look at learning styles, which is, I'm using the VARK model. VARK stands for visual, auditory, reader-writers, and kinesthetic. So the next one is the diagnosed Australian core skills framework grid. Remember the VARK model. The VARK model's issue is that you have students with all learning styles or some learning styles. So we need to find out which learning style that each student has. So that's a very important thing. You have a number of different combinations here, right? Some of them may have one, some of them may have two or three or all. So then you need to match with diagnosed Australian core skills framework. So those are the 4 levels. Now from outside, from your onion, you can start peeling now before we go ahead. So you remove, imagine this is a tough one. You remove the whole outer layer. Now the second one, now the third one, now the fourth one. Okay. Now the 5th one, we have the critical. I put critical learning skills not straight after number 1 for the reason that this is based on the cause and effect relationship. One is causing the other. And this is why I put into this diagram. So from a general LLN skill to critical LLN skill, there are 3 more unforeseen layers that should be taken on board. Now we are getting to number 6, which is my flow diagram level 1 to 7. And you saw that. Down the 6th layer, 7th layer is performance grading, how you grade the submitted work. And the last layer is the final passing grade on StudySmart or your administration system. You can start peeling all the layers now, getting to final passing grade. It's a long journey. There's another presentation I have done, which I put these layers upside, starting a different manner. And that was uploaded to YouTube. I'll give you the link, but I find this makes more sense. Now I found there are connections in this case. If you look at that from general skills to education theoretical underpinnings, there is a connection here. I got a red arrow to put it there. And I also found from level 1 connection to level 3. And you could see each level is connected to the other level. Now the next one is, I'm going to show how level 4 Australian core skills framework is connected to the levels in the previous levels, level 1, 2, and 3. I put green dotted arrows. Okay, that makes sense. Then I thought, how do this 1, 2, 3, and 4 connected to critical learning skills? And here got my black arrows. Then the next one is, how is it the flow diagram stages are connected to these stages, right? And then it happens number 7, performance grading at that point, but I did not want to make this diagram messy, but I put a little dotted line, right? So finally, the passing grade. Now, there is something else there. Remember the video clip? Video clip was talking what Australian workforce needed. That means employable skills. Now, in this onion, I needed to find out where exactly employable skills are standing. Most of the students who are going through diploma, they need more than a general LLM skill. So therefore, it can't be here. It can't be here. And I thought maybe it is going for critical LLM skills and onward. So critical LLM skills, I'm again referring to Bloom's taxonomy level 3 to 6. So it came to my head, right, here in the inner 4 layers, these 4 layers have the employability skills. So, and that makes sense. If you look at that, for each and every stage, there is this cause and effect relationship. So which makes sense, I felt. So the next one is how to identify these symptoms. Sometimes find, this one explained, assessment submitted, but without answering the questions. So this is one of the common symptoms. Then high percentage of duplication if you find there is something wrong. Then all items in the checklist are not done. There is something wrong. Then if you get an email saying, oh, which page where can I find that information? Meaning information what not processed. Then if a manual calculator is used where accounting or accounting for managers or finance related subjects to asking to plot a graph and interpret these results or communicate, then there are no graphs there. So manual calculator and having answers. So you know these are symptoms. Then you can add number of items to the list. Now we have to have a treatment plan. Now it's like a kind of a doctor is diagnosing. Now the nurse is giving some kind of a support when you see nurse check your temperature, weight, talk and write notes and that sort of thing. So now you have become a doctor here because you have to diagnose what is required and then cater. It's not easy. So now you have to have a treatment plan. What is my treatment? This is the most challenging. You have to have in your head, what should I do? Remember the WARC model. Remember the educational theoretical underpinning. Which one would work? In rare cases, I mean, if you see that video clip, it says that increasing demand for technology and the changing technology. It never says that telephone, using telephone for learning is the very last solution. If a student is expecting to learn from telephone, that's good, but the concern is, can the student enter to the technological workforce today? Everywhere anyone is using computer, even for manual laboring, right, to carry something, how to, workplace health and safety. So that's so important. So therefore, it is, my advice is 95% just use technology. If you don't have that, go to the public library near to your place, and during opening hours, just use a headphone and then access this information from the public library for free. So because it's not harm. The reason is, if Abraham Lincoln can read the books under street lights and became president, none of us should not be worried about that. So that's the reality. So treatment plan should be considering, think again, whether would it work. So it's kind of experiment. Some things work, some of them not. So it's a very hard. Sometimes number of other things, other demographics I have not taken into account here, such as the social class or the cultural, gender, age kind of factors are not all considered here. This is a general LLN footprint showing the connection between elements. So discuss with a colleague, change the strategy, or expert advice is welcome here. So then the treatment plan is done, but the treatment should be executed. How do you execute your treatment? Could be a video clip, could be a voice clip, could be instructions written, or could be referring to different web links, and then treatment with some praise coming from Skinner, the behavioral scientist. A lot of praise, motivation required. Then we need to look at, we had lots of inputs. If you look at my flow diagram, they had, the cycles within cycles. Those are gains, the flow diagram has many stages because of its iterative process, number of inputs, processes, and outputs. But as a whole, you have to conclude by using the information you got. So I consider very input is the point of contact, okay, because from there meeting general LLN needs. Then the rest of the processes I put it here, these referring to my flow diagram, right? And then the output is final passing rate to make the story short and sweet. Then the questions. So we will go back to our definition and see whether we have to change it. Up to you. Suggest what is possible. Then analysis of these things. Any reports would be nice to see how our students are progressing from where we start. Number 2 is a huge, broad, huge area. It's a massive area. It's not an easy task. Then number 3, other strategies that are involved in addressing these needs and specialist support or any other questions. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you the link to forward comments, and then from there we'll take further. And thank you very much for your patience. So that's all we are going to do today.